Study Session 9. Please work with juvenile. Introduction. The alarming increase in serious juvenile crime in the past few years has made it obvious that the police can no longer neglect youthful antisocial behavior. Police who work with juvenile offenders usually have skills and talents that go beyond those generally associated with regular police work. We will therefore examine the theory and practice of police organization with emphasis to the juvenile function in this study session. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Outline the procedure for arresting juveniles. 2. Point out the case for waiver. 3. Distinguish between arrests of adult and juvenile offenders. 1. The arrest procedure. This is when a juvenile is apprehended. The police must decide whether to release the youngster or make a referral to the juvenile court. Cases involving serious crimes against property or persons are often referred to court. Less serious cases such as disputes between juveniles, petty shoplifting, runaways, and assaults of minors are often diverted from court action. Arrest is taking a person into the custody of the law to restrain the accused until they can be held accountable for the offense in court proceedings. Szymanski, 1988. 1. Search and seizure. This is a situation whereby the U.S. Constitution protects citizens from any search and seizure by police without a lawfully obtained search warrant. Such warrants are issued when there is probable cause to believe that an offense has been committed. A full discussion of search and seizure is beyond the scope of this study session, but it is important to note that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that police may stop a suspect and search for evidence without a warrant under certain circumstances. A person may be searched after a legal arrest, but then only in the presence of the suspect's control. The following rules govern search and seizure. 1. After an arrest for possession of drugs, the pockets of a suspect's jacket may be searched. 2. An automobile may be searched if there is probable cause to believe a crime has taken place. 3. A suspect's outer garments may be frisked if police are suspicious of his or her activities. And 4. A search may be conducted if a person volunteers for the search. However, these rules are usually applied to juveniles as well as to adults. 1-2. Custodial interrogation. These are questions posed by the police to a suspect held in custody in the prejudicial stage of the juvenile justice process. Juveniles have the same rights against self-incrimination as adults do when being questioned. It was held that persons in police custody must be told the following. 1. They have the right to remain silent. 2. Any statements they make can be used against them. 3. They have the right to counsel. 4. If they cannot afford counsel, it will be furnished at public expense. Miranda v. Arizona, 1966. Waiver in the juvenile justice. Waiver, which is also known as removal, is transferring legal jurisdiction over the most serious and experienced juvenile offenders to the adult court for criminal prosecution. 1. Rules of the waiver in juvenile justice. 1. The parents or attorneys need not be present for juveniles effectively to waive their rights. That is, the question of a juvenile's waiver is to be determined by the totality of the circumstances doctrine. The validity of a waiver rests not only on the age of the youth, but also on a combination of other factors, including the education of the accused, the accuser's knowledge of the charge, whether the youth was allowed to consult with family or friends, and the method of interrogation. 3. The general rule is that juveniles can waive their rights to protection from self-incrimination, but that the validity of this waiver is determined by the circumstances of each case. Numerous factors influence the decisions police make about juvenile offenders. They include the seriousness of the offense, the harm inflicted of the victim, and the likelihood that the juvenile will break the law again. 3. Differences between arrests of adult and juvenile offenders. The main differences between arrests of adult and juvenile offenders include the following. 1. Most juvenile courts provide broad authority for the police to take juveniles into custody. 2. Such statutes are designed to give the police the authority to act in loco parentis in place of the parent. 3. The broad power granted to the police is consistent with the notion that a juvenile is not arrested but taken into custody, which implies a protective rather than punitive form of detention. Davis, 1989. 4. Community-based policing services. Some police departments are now replacing more aggressive measures with cooperative community-based efforts. Since police officers are responsible for the care of juveniles taken into custody, it is essential that they work closely with social service groups day by day. The police is assuming a leadership role in identifying the needs of children in the community and helping the community meet those needs. The police is also working closely with youth service bureaus, schools, recreational facilities, welfare agencies, and employment programs. Norman, 1971. 4.1. Advantages of using community services for juveniles. 1. Such services allow younger people to avoid the stigma of being processed by a police agency. 2. The services also improve the community's awareness of the needs of young people and make it possible to restrict court referral to cases involving serious crime. Curfews represent a community-based policing service with the following characteristics. 1. Curfew laws vary with respect to the locale affected, the time frame, and the sanctions. 2. Curfew laws restrict minors to their homes or property between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. 3. Sanctions for curfew violations by youths range from fines to being charged with a misdemeanor violation and may include participation and diversion programs or, in some jurisdictions, jail time for parents. In fact, police officers must be familiar with procedural law because their contract with young people includes the legal aspects of arrest, custodian, interrogation, and lineups. Study session summary. In this study session, we discussed police involvements with criminal activity of juvenile offenders. These include the arrest procedure, search and seizure, custodian interrogation, and community-based policing services. We also examined the differences between arrests of adults and juvenile offenders, as well as rules governing the search and seizure in juvenile justice system. We further described waiver and its rules in the juvenile justice system and the use of community service such as curfew. End of study session 9. Thank you for listening.